Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about TTRPGs. First up for TTRPG, as it's been all week, we have the Last Blessing mug from my party that just wrapped up their 4-year campaign, as well as inside of it, the Last Blessing tea that they made me. It is, again, a nice little gunpowder green and lemon combo. It tastes very, very nice. I like it a lot. And I wish you guys could smell it because it smells fantastic. Mostly because it smells like lemons. But let's go ahead and dive. Let's dive into. I don't know. Let's go ahead and dive into what we are talking about today. Today is the big one, the one that probably everybody has actually been kind of waiting for this week. And mark Wednesdays on your calendar. It's going to be for you players. Wednesdays of Season 5 are going to be character creation days. How do I build a Pathfinder character? So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Before we actually get started on building the character, though, let's go ahead and let's just make sure we are all on the same page of what it is you are going to need in actually creating your character. First and foremost, you're going to need a character sheet. You're going to need a character sheet of some kind. And I say of some kind because obviously you can have a paper character sheet. But this is my first plug for online materials for this one. Other than just it's free on a lot of stuff. There is an online character creator for Pathfinder 2e that has all of the material in it called Path Builder 2e. This is a really, really great website. It is not as comprehensive as the D&D Beyond character builder, but it does help you fill things in as you go. Obviously, D&D Beyond really sort of like holds your hand and walks you through every single step. Pathfinder or Path Builder 2e, not quite the same, but it does generate an online character sheet for you as well, which is a really, really fantastic thing. But if you are foregoing that and you are taking a good hard look at your paper copy character sheet, more power to you. Let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about what it is that you're going to need to be doing to actually create your character. So the first thing that we need to know here is that you are going to be picking basically 3 main things for your character. You're going to be picking your ancestry, you're going to be picking your background, and you're going to be picking your class. If you are familiar with how to build a 5e character, congratulations. You already understand these 3 things and what they are and what they contribute. Particularly if you have been paying attention in more recent times with the way that Tasha's works and the way that 1D&D playtesting is going. You are already familiar with more or less how to do this sort of thing. And in broad strokes, because when we get into it, you are going to be seeing that it is a little bit different than it actually is necessarily. So let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit here, shall we? Now, if you have the Pathfinder core rulebook, there is an actual like step-by-step guide on how to build a character in it. It is very good. It is very helpful. I do recommend reading that if you have not yet. It is helpful to get to go ahead and just see them make a character on the pages there. It is less complicated than it could be, I promise. So, first things first, let's go ahead and talk ancestry here. Ancestry, there are 6 core ancestries in the core rulebook. Those are the ones that you are probably going to be picking from early on. You will be familiar with pretty much all of them as you go ahead and go through. They are human, elf, dwarf, halfling, goblin, and gnome, I believe is the other one. You might be saying, where is half-orc? Where is half-elf? Those are sub-races of the human set. There are those, they call them something other than sub-races. I just don't remember what it is right now. But they do have those little offshoots. There is a different type of individual that you could be. Like there are Arctic goblins and desert goblins and that kind of thing. They're labeled different things as you go through. So all of those are still in there, and you do get slightly different things for those specifically, or you get access to different feats in your ancestry feats as you go through. So first thing that you're doing is you're picking your ancestry. Your ancestry is going to be giving you a lot of really, really solid information here, including, but not limited to, first, who you are, more or less like what it is that you're going to be getting yourself into. In addition to, let me get to a page here with it. It's going to be giving you a base hit point. So the way that hit points work in Pathfinder 2e is your ancestry and your class actually contribute to your hit points early on, and by early on I mean at first level. So let's say you are a human. You get 8 hit points to start. You also get whatever would be your hit die, basically, for your class. You add those two together, and you add your Constitution modifier. So your level 1 characters are not quite at risk of being blown through like wet tissue paper. So you get hit points, you get your size, you get your walking speed. Humans, that is 25 feet, you are size medium. You get your ability boosts, because the way that ability scores in Pathfinder are expected to be set up are all 6 are set at 10, and then you get different boosts or I forget what they call the negative ones. It's drawbacks or subtractions, basically, based on the ancestry that you pick. There is an alternative rule, which is more in line with Tasha's, where you get the 2 from your main, or you get the 2 from your ancestry that you want, and then you go ahead and you don't take a subtraction from there, as opposed to many of the other ones here, being halfling, let's say. You get dexterity, wisdom, and a free one, which means that your dexterity and wisdom go up by 2 each, as well as 1 ability score of your choice that is not those 2 goes up by 1. Then you would also get ability flaw, that's what it is, in strength, where your strength would go down by 2. Whereas the human just has the 2 free boosts to go wherever they want. They can't stack. Important to note here that if you are putting your ability scores together, you get +2 for each of the boosts that you have until you hit 18. After 18, an ability boost only increases it by 1 point each past that, to try and generally rein people into the normal range of functioning. But the alternative rule, check with your game master before you actually use this. For all of the other races, humans are the only ones that have no flaw, is to take 2 of the free ones and take no flaw instead. So you get your ability boost from that. You also then get languages. Humans get common, as well as an additional language equal to 1 plus your intelligence modifier if it's positive. Specifically, you get common languages, more than likely. So that is, common, elvish, halfling, that kind of thing. So you gain languages based on how intelligent you are, as well as the general traits of human and humanoid. So these are like the numbers that you're gonna get from your human that you are creating here. Now, the next big thing that you're going to be picking from are the classes. There are 12 base classes in Pathfinder 2e. They are Alchemist, Barbarian, Bard, Champion, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Monk, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, and Wizard. The major omissions, if you're coming from 5th edition D&D, you may notice Paladin and Warlock. Now, Alchemist is in there, sort of in place of an Artificer, kind of, except the Alchemist is definitely more focused on the actual, alchemical side of things. And your Paladin is actually just your Champion. They are more or less one and the same. Same thematically, at least. Oops. Same thematically. So, really the only one that is cut here is Warlock. I, too, am bummed about that, but there are plenty of expansions that give you access to all kinds of cool stuff, including, a Witch class, and several other spellcasting classes. All of those, again, available on Pathbuilder 2e. Now, your classes will give you plenty of cool stuff. Let's go ahead and let's just look at Barbarian, because it is one that, if you are familiar with 5e, you are familiar with. The things you get at level 1 initially. You get initial proficiencies here. You gain the listed proficiency ranks in all of the following statistics that I'm about to read off here. You're untrained in anything that's not obviously set in there. Important to note, you do get training to different degrees from your ancestries, sometimes, not always. So for this one, you are trained to the expert level in perception. That's the +4, I believe. You are trained to different degrees in your saving throws. Now, important here, your saving throws are broken up into 3 scores instead of 1 per score. there are fortitude, reflex, and will saves. That is actually, in my opinion, a pretty good system because it is just sort of like merging of two different scores as you go on there. But the barbarian gets expert in fortitude, again, +4. Trained in reflex, +2. And expert in will, +4. Which is an interesting one because, as many people know who have played barbarians, oftentimes wisdom becomes a dump stat in 5th edition, meaning that you would lose those wisdom saving throws or those will saves. Whereas in this one, you are actually encouraged to do well in those, even if your wisdom is lower. You are starting with a +4 from your training proficiency alone. So if your wisdom saving throw, or if your wisdom score, not that great, you're doing all right here. Skills, you are trained in athletics, +2. And train in a number of additional skills equal to 3 plus your intelligence modifier. So if you have an intelligence modifier of 2, you get to pick 5 other skills that you are trained in. Attacks, you are trained, +2 in simple weapons, trained, +2 in martial weapons, and trained, +2 in unarmed strikes. I think it is really great that they are adding unarmed strikes to this sort of thing because I want to play a barbarian that punches people more than anything a lot of the time, and I have had to homebrew and get around it in 5e, so the fact that they're just going ahead and saying, you know what, barbarians, you're good at that. You're good at punching stuff. I appreciate that quite a bit. Defenses. You are trained, +2 in light armor, trained, +2 in medium armor, and trained, +2 in unarmored defense, which is interesting. I think it's a cool concept that they have for unarmored defense as being sort of a separate thing. And then you are trained, +2 in your barbarian class DC. If you have different DCs for different features, they will, from your class, they will focus around your class DC, as opposed to having several different things that could have different DCs based on who you are in 5e. Each class, when they require saving throws for a class feature, use your class save DC. It's a good streamlined way to just sort of do it, and I do appreciate that quite a bit. Additionally, here, they give you your key ability score for barbarians, that is strength, which means that you get an ability boost to that, so a +2 or a +1 if you're already at 18 or higher, as well as hit points. Barbarians, similar to 5e, get 12. Would be a d12 if you were playing 5e, but for them it is just 12. So you are looking at, with a human barbarian, 8 plus 12, 20, plus your constitution modifier, let's call it 3. That is 23 hit points at first level. That is a really, really good pool of hit points to actually be able to work with if you're supposed to be a frontline fighter. Makes it, again, so you are not just getting punched through by a stiff breeze. Actually something that can actually be helpful to you. Then the last major piece of building your character is going to be picking your background. Now, your background is going to give you a couple of things. It is mostly going to be giving you ability boosts and skill trainings. So, oftentimes, you will get different ability boosts based on which one you pick. Let's go ahead and let's say that you choose Bounty Hunter. I've got Path Builder 2e up in front of me now. Sorry, I'm looking in a different spot. Let's go ahead and say you pick Bounty Hunter just because it's in front of me. You get 2 ability boosts. One must be Strength or Wisdom. The other one is free. As well as getting trained, +2, in the Survival skill and the Legal Lore skill. And then you also gain the Experience Tracker skill feat. As I mentioned, I believe, when I talked about feats yesterday, there are skill feats in addition to being able to be trained in skills. The game is full of feats. It's amazing. So, once you have those 3 things picked out, you really can just start filling stuff in. Those are the 3 major things that you need to do because your ability scores have been calculated along the way for you. There is an alternative rule in there that allows you to, or that says you could do the 4d6 minus, or drop the lowest. Talk to your GM about that. Pathfinder is sort of built around, conceptually, you being able to go ahead and do 10s across the board, and then building up from there for the most part, with one of them really sort of coming down a little bit. You don't run into a lot of ability flaws when you're creating your characters. You are mostly going from basic human level and shooting up from there. Like, you're doing a lot of really great stuff in terms of like pushing your ability scores up and making yourself as good as you possibly can be. Which is important because the way that actual checks and rolling and everything like that work, which I'll talk about later on, are different. It works slightly different, not super different in this game. So when you are going through and you're like, man, I have a plus 12 at level 6 to one of these skills. What could I possibly lose at? There's stuff you can lose at, don't worry. So once you get your numbers sort of hashed out, then you get to go in and you get to pick the different things that you get at different levels in your class and ancestry. So you will go ahead and you will write down whatever feature you get from your class. So with Barbarian, you obviously get Rage at your first level, as well as your proficiencies that we talked about. Then you also get something called Instinct, and you get a Barbarian feat. Again, there are leveled feats in your class. You get to pick one of the Barbarian feats to go ahead and sort of kickstart your journey there. In addition, in your ancestry, you get to go ahead and you pick the feats that you talk about in your ancestry. Again, specializing, starting to kick that whole thing off. So, Pathfinder 2e, making a character genuinely not that complicated because it basically does the math for you as you go. And if you decide to go ahead and do the Path Builder 2e, if you decide to go ahead and use it, you will actually get to see it sort of update itself live in front of you, which is a really, really cool way to go ahead and just like have it work in your brain. Now, don't get me wrong. I fully think there is something to be said about actually understanding the processes that go into like creating a character and how each of those things is going to work. But having a tool that will let you just power through it and get to actually playing the game is so, so helpful. So while I recommend definitely trying to make a character solo or with the guidance of your GM, I just mean without the guidance of a computer, it is definitely going to be something that is going to be super helpful and a very good resource for you as you go ahead and you make these characters. Hopefully this was actually helpful to you and not just a weird conglomeration of words. I tried to do it in as linear of a fashion as I could, even though I know that I had a couple of like zigs and zags I got to different things. Characters are not as complicated as you think they are, which is really cool. And then leveling up from there, you just make sure you have to keep updating things. And that's how it is in every single game. Every game that has this, you get stuff. And this one just so happens to have a lot of feats that you get as you level up, which is cool and fun, and you should definitely enjoy getting to pick those out. As you get to start with the direction you want to take the character early on. So highly, highly recommend at least experimenting and trying to build a Pathfinder character, because it is quite a bit of fun. I went ahead and I built one separately off on Path Builder, and it was really cool. I did it with the book open in front of me so I could follow along with where I was supposed to be in the process, so that it really like hit in my brain. But it was a cool time, I guess, or something. I don't know. Whatever. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this here episode of Good Morning Adventures. If you want to support the show, go ahead and subscribe to the channel either on YouTube or on the podcasting platform that you're listening on. Helps me out a ton. And as ever, if I'm getting anything wrong in here, please correct me in the comments. I want to learn. People want to learn. Check the comments, see if there's corrections there. It is the best way for all of us to learn if we just kind of help each other out with it. But that is everything I have for you guys today. So, with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget, drink tea, play TTRPGs, and keep on rolling.